Well, this is a very special evening for us. Tonight, Books and Books is delighted to be welcoming our good friends, Ms. Isa Emmett and Ms. Jennifer Bird. They're going to be presenting the book American Art Deco Furniture by Mr. Rick Emmett. And here to introduce Isa and Jennifer, please welcome to the podium. He is an Art Deco author himself and a good friend of Rick's, Mr. Michael Knirk.
Thank you, Victor. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to say what a pleasure it is to be back here at Books and Books again. My partner, Dennis Wilhelm, and I were honored with our first book signing here in Mitch Kaplan's legendary Books and Books. That was way back in 1995. Whoa, 20 years ago. That was for our first book, Rediscovering Art Deco USA. We have been studying and learning more about Art Deco ever since, almost 50 years now. Rick Emmett was one of our true friends and one of the very special few who loved Art Deco as much as we do. We've been waiting anxiously for the publication of his great magnum opus for quite a few years. We've been watching closely as he developed it and worked on it. It was a thrill when we received our copy, pre-publication, pre-release. We had requested a signed copy, number 25, to commemorate the year 1925, Les Ans s'en vont, the year of the famous Exposition Internationale des Arts Décoratifs et Industriels Modernes, from which Art Deco gets its name. That landmark exposition opened 90 years ago this month, so Rick's book comes to us now at a time of a very special art anniversary in Art Deco history. But that was in Europe. Rick's book is titled American Art Deco Furniture. Well, as scholars of Art Deco know, it was the world's first international design movement. We all know the origins are in Europe. Pardon me. At the dawn of the 20th century, the Paris Exposition merely marked the high water mark, the peak of Art Deco in the world. Tonight's speakers know all about that. Isa Emmett was born in Europe. She spent her life observing the many design movements of Europe and the USA. She moved to America in 1959, and she met Rick Emmett in 1966. They married in 1979, and in 1987, they opened the great store, research center, and library right around the corner called Modernism, right here in Coral Gables. Isa was deeply involved in the growth of Eastern Airlines, headquartered here in Miami, not only in marketing and passenger care, but also in advertising, graphic design, and the newly developing information technology so crucial to modern aviation. All of that brilliantly prepared her to be the publisher of the book, which brings us here tonight. Their daughter, Jennifer Bird, was trained lovingly and expertly by her parents to become an expert in antiques and estate appraisal. She no doubt has inherited her father's awesome skills in scholarship and research on the provenance of art and design objects. We lost Rick a few weeks ago, April 7th. But Isa and Jennifer can tell us the story of how this incomparable book came to be published. Rick was the author, and Isa was, in fact, the publisher. As Rick told me shortly before his death, Isa is my rock. She is how I keep my focus. Ladies and gentlemen, here are Isa Emmett and Jennifer Bird.
Thanks. Well, Michael pretty much, good evening, and I'm so happy to see everyone here. Michael pretty much covered our introduction, which was great because he talked about American Art Deco and where it's originated. And we started collecting Art Deco in 1979. And the first piece of Art Deco we bought was this funky little duck. It's a doorstop. And when Rick had to give a photo of himself for the back cover of the book with the author image is, he said, I'm going to put Deco Duck. I said, you can't do that. He said, watch me. So Deco Duck is now, he said, you can read what he said. He said, everybody that knows me knows what I look like. And everybody that doesn't know me doesn't care, and the duck is more interesting. So I don't want to tell you what he's chosen for the cover of the second book, American Art Deco Lighting, but it'll be a surprise when it comes out. So about 4 years ago, Rick said, I'm going to write a book. And I said, okay. It's going to be on American Art Deco furniture and lighting. And I said, okay, I guess we can do that. And he said, I'll be done in about 6 months. And I said, okay, because I figured he already knew everything there was to know about it. He could just take a few pictures. We had the pictures. Well, 4 years later, the book came out, and it was a 4-year, 7.5-pound baby. It had split 2-for-1 because originally it started out as American Art Deco furniture and lighting. In July of last year, we realized that the book would have to be about 900 pages. And so he split it, put the lighting stuff on the side. It's about 75% done. I'm going to be starting to work on it in September, Lord willing. And American Art Deco furniture went to print. We chose a printer in Buenos Aires, partly because it was someone we knew, and she has been wonderful. Akian Graphics did the printing. They helped us in every step of the way. When we first got the first galleys of the book, they were not top-notch. So some of the images weren't as good as they should have been. And the printer said, well, this book is only going to be 1,000 copies. That's it. Do you want 1,000 copies for posterity not to be the best they could be? So we went back to the drawing board, redid a lot of the images, and finally, December 22nd, I got 3 copies of the book so I could bring them here. And in January, some more were ready. We picked them up, and the rest of them are, there's 1,000 copies there. About 170 were signed by Rick. The other ones will still be numbered. There will not be a second printing of the book. So the book is set up in a lot of there's been a lot of question about how American Art Deco furniture can be identified. And that's basically what Rick wanted to do. He wanted to talk a little bit about how he came to love American Art Deco. And originally, when there was going to be the Paris exposition in 1925, they asked Woodrow Wilson to send an American exhibition there to set up a pavilion, and he said, well, there is no American Art Deco. And when Rick was first offered a piece of American Art Deco at his gallery, he said, no, it's only French, there's no American Art Deco. Well, little by little, he changed his mind. So part of his thing was always to research and identify the pieces and assign them to the proper designers. And there were...
You want me to tell the story?
Yeah, tell the story about the designers.
These designers, there's a few of them that were all friends, and they hung out together all the time. And one story, which Rick actually tells in the book, is when Kem Weber was in a taxi cab in New York City, riding with Paul Frankel, Frederick Kiesler, Donald Desky, and Lee Simonson. And the driver turned a really sharp corner, and Frankel leaned over and said, and I quote, "Listen, old man, if you spill this bunch, there will be no modern art in America." And back then, the term Art Deco didn't exist. All the furniture was called modern or modern, or avant-garde sometimes. Art Deco was coined in Bevis Hiller's book Art Deco of the 20s and 30s, which was published in 1968, and it was a contraction of the Paris Exposition of 1925, Arts Décoratifs. The Americans basically took this European idea and they created a body of work to make a uniquely American style in architecture, automobiles, and art. This book specifically is about the designers and manufacturers who gave us American Art Deco furniture.
And the book is 569 pages with more than 450 illustrations. There are 24 designers and one chapter of anonymous furniture. I'm not going to go through a whole book with you. You can take a look. We've got a display copy right there. 3 manufacturers are covered. And there's a useful bibliography, books that you can purchase to read and enjoy that will help you understand this a little bit more.
And they can probably order them here for you if they're available and still in print.
Yeah. And this is generally, so far, we took a copy of the book last month. Rick and I went to Philadelphia and to New York, and a lot of our research was done at the Cooper Hewitt. They gave us free access to at the Cooper Hewitt Library and to their archives, and so we took a gift copy to them, and they looked through it, and very quickly they took it and they sent it to Washington, D.C. to be conserved. Rick and I are looking at each other going, really, is that good? And it is now going to be in the permanent collection of the Cooper Hewitt Art and Design Library, which we're very, very proud of that. So far, everyone has really had nothing but good things to say, except a couple of people said they wanted a hardcover. And the reason we didn't do a hardcover is because they don't stand up to, for this book, we wanted to be a research book, something that will be consulted, a reference book. English was not my first language. So anyway, I'm going to talk a little bit about the designers, 2 or 3 of them, show you some pictures. The book is set up where there is a piece of furniture here, a photo. Then there is a documentation for that piece of furniture, who designed it, and it's always either period literature or patent drawings, or an ad that was seen in the period, in a period magazine or whatever. So far, I figure we've taken about 10 to 12,000 photos in the last 4 years, just for this one book. The chapter on tags and labels is particularly good for anyone that wants to identify a piece of American Art Deco, because it will have, if you see the piece and it's in the book, it'll tell you who actually designed for that particular manufacturer. And the first one of the designers is Paul Frankel. He started the first of the manufacturing companies in New York. He would do the design, and then he would let the design out to the lowest bidder. So Paul Frankel furniture, especially early stuff, is not necessarily great manufacture, but it is great design. And he did the skyscraper bookcase, and there are variations of it, but this is the one we used in the book. And it mimicked the skyscrapers rising up against the wall like some building against the sky. And coincidentally enough, he named his company Skyscraper Furniture. And he had a very distinctive label. He also did a lot of innovative stuff. Now, when Rick first brought this, we were at 1622 Ponce. And he brought this piece in, and I looked at it and I said, what in heaven's name is that? It's got a cement top and glass. He says, oh, it's a bar. It's by Paul Frankel. And I said, right. Well, he took out Paul Frankel's book, and sure enough, there was a photo of it. And And it was really kind of cool the way it was set up, because you have a place for bottles, a place to hang, and you even have a place to put your foot on the bottom. You could put your foot on the thing. Now, he also designed a lot of rattan furniture. Some of it has been documented. Some of it is, has not been documented. We haven't found anything to substantiate some of the other rattan furniture. This one is documented. It was for fixed read. And this one is pictured in a fixed read ad in the January 1930 issue of Good Furniture magazine. And there are several examples of this particular line of furniture. This is the ubiquitous Paul Franco speed chair. And the whole thing of the 1930s was the speed, the sleek lines, like a boat going quickly in the water.
Didn't they use that for Memorex or Maxell in the 80s?
They used that, and they also used another chair, but this one was used for the Maxell Memorex, with the guy took off flying the speed chair. This belongs to one of our clients who let us photograph it. It's just great design. It is one of my favorite pieces of Franco design. And again, it's documented. Now, one of the things that is in the book is the misattributions. And some of them, unfortunately, we misattributed in the past, and we've told our clients, sorry, but we didn't know. This particular D chair was copied by Modern Age. Modern Age had a place here in Miami, but they started out in New York. And they did a lot of afters, but they also did a lot of their own designs. They were a very good company. And there is a gentleman by the name of Chris Kennedy up in Massachusetts who has a company named Design Base, and he is one of the people that we consulted for research. And he has written a paper on the D chair, because there was when we finally got the paper and looked at what the real D chair was supposed to look like, Rick and I both looked at each other and we decided that we had never seen a real one except in a photograph. But when Franco found out that Modern Age had copied it, he stopped making it. And Chris allowed us to publish his paper in the book, so it is in there, and anybody that's interested can read about it. Donald Desky, we opened our first website in 1995, modernism.com. And Rick, who didn't believe in all of that stuff, he says, let me put a bedroom set up on there. It was the first thing we ever put on there. And he gets a phone call from somebody in Mebane, North Carolina, who says, I want to buy the bedroom set. He said, what bedroom set? The one that's on your website. He said, what website? And so Rick told her all about it. Rick loved telling people what he knew about anything. I mean, he loved learning, and then he loved sharing that learning. And so he told her that Donald Desky was from Blue Earth, Minnesota, and she said, I'll buy it. I'm from Blue Earth, Minnesota. And we sold it for $15,000, which in 1995 was good. And he said, Isa, we need to put more things on the website. I said, what he's mostly known for is Radio City Music Hall. He did the interiors for Radio City Music Hall. And you
really want me to tell that story?
Yeah, tell that story.
Okay, I guess she wants me to tell the story. It's not very interesting, but okay. When I was 20, and 20, whatever, and I wanted to go see the Who's Tommy on Broadway. I'm a bit of a Broadway geek, and I knew Rick liked the Who, so I'm like, okay, let's go to New York. And he goes, okay, I'll take you to see Tommy, but you got to go to museums with me. Okay, yes, anything, yay. We're on the plane, we're going, and he's like got the guidebook out, and I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm figuring out which museums to go to. And all of a sudden I heard museums. I said, well, how many can there possibly be that you want to go to? There were 5. He took me to the Guggenheim, to the Cooper Hewitt, to the Whitney, to the MoMA, and to the Met, which oddly enough, the Met was our favorite. We did like our own sort of When Harry Met Sally thing going through there. And I just remember going to Radio City. And of course, we saw the, aging Rockette do her presentation and everything. But when we were walking through Radio City Music Hall, and I had been there as a child, and I just had never seen the things that were in our gallery actually out in an actual space that wasn't our gallery before, or someone else's gallery. And to see these things, and to see why they were created, and to see what their function and their form was in these places in New York City was just remarkable. Even the carpeting in Radio City Music Hall, Desky designed. It was just amazing for me to see basically stuff that had been in my house in this iconic place. Another thing he took me to, and then this will be the end of my little part, is we went to this exhibit at the Cooper Hewitt. I think it was at the Cooper Hewitt, or it was at the Whitney. I can't remember. I was 20, and I'm much older now. So it was about design in everyday life. And of course, probably most people know, or if you don't, you may learn something, that Andy Warhol designed the Campbell's soup can. And that was actually where I learned that. And also, does anybody know who might have designed the Tide logo? Donald Desky. Really? So it was a fascinating exhibit, and I was actually trying to research it yesterday to see if I could remember where it was exactly and all that. There were other things too, but Donald Desky's my favorite designer. So just the fact that he did something that we see every day, there's so many things that you see every day that some of these amazing designers, like the St. Louis Arch was designed by Eero Saarinen, who's also another furniture designer. So these gentlemen were fascinating, and some women, just fascinating people. It was the interesting thing was I was about to take my first and only art class that I took in college, because at that time I wanted to be a journalist, not an appraiser. And I basically saw everything that they covered in the humanities class before I even went in the class. So, and I'm glad that I am an appraiser, because it's fascinating to learn about new things, and Rick pretty much taught me everything that he knew. Yeah. And I'm proud of him.
So the first image that we had here, this chair, there's a cute story about that. We bought it from a gentleman in San Francisco. We were doing the show, the Pier show in New York. And he said, well, I'll bring it to you in New York. So Rick went and picked it up at Peter's booth, and as he was bringing the chair, the chair had, half the chair fell, the interior, on the way. There was a trail from where he picked it up to our booth. And it really did not look as good as this. This image has been photoshopped a little bit. So when Rick brought it into the booth, I said, you can't leave that there. And he said, no, it's Donald Desky. I said, how do you know? Well, it's not, for one thing, it's in David Hank's book, but he sold it right away. We never had a chance to photograph it. And he always loved it when I yell at him about buying something and he'd sell it right away. I think he sold it right away just to show me. So it was given to, we actually talked to her daughter, Gigi Franklin, to Donald Desky's secretary. And the daughter says that it was given to her in exchange for pay. This table, Donald Desky did a lot of advertising. There's just about every period magazine had an ad for Desky Vollmer or Desky. They eventually split up. And it's great for our research, because you can find a table that maybe it wasn't in the catalog or wasn't known who did it, and then all of a sudden there's an ad, and we were able to document a lot of pieces that way. This was an apartment he designed for Rockefeller in 1929. And then, of course, Radio City Music Hall. And
Oh, and I just want to say one more thing about Radio City Music Hall. If you go to New York, take the tour. It's definitely worth it. It takes about an hour and a half, but I would very much recommend it because this sofa, for example, came out of Radio City Music Hall, which we had and we sold. But it's really worth it to take that tour.
anyway, so he also designed for Whitcomb. And take a look at this particular piece happens to be at the Art Deco Museum on Miami Beach. On 10th and Ocean. So there's some of these pieces are exhibited there. And remember this one when we get to the misattributions for Desky. Remember the lines on this one. This piece is actually here. I brought it show and tell, Donald Desky for Hastings. And
Surprisingly light.
it's very light, and it's just great design. It's not a particularly important table, but it's great design, and it was easy to bring. This is a speakeasy, a card table. It had where the little ashtrays are. You could pull out little shelves and for setting the drinks and everything, and it was. They were made for a speakeasy in the Gramercy Park area of New York. We were able to get 3 of them. This particular one went to Dubai. Wow. And do you remember the vanity I showed you before? Well, David, this came out to light not too long ago because we were selling this furniture thinking it was Donald Desky. So was everybody else. And then a good friend of ours, Davis Cohn, said, no, that's David Evans, because he had helped us research over the last few years. And so this is a misattribution. Gilbert Rhodey saved Herman Miller from extinction during the Depression because he came in and designed a line of really good modern American furniture. One of his designs was in the 1933 Chicago World's Fair. He designed very, very streamlined things. This was for Haywood Wakefield. And he also designed for Troy Sunshade. It's a great sofa. Yeah. Rhodey designed this piece for Troy Sunshade. Donald Desky designed a similar table. You'll see it in the book, except it didn't have the feet. And Donald Desky's grandson called us and purchased it. And he also purchased a copy of the book. But that is one of the catalogs. You'll see in the book there's a lot of catalogs. And this is, again, a Rhodey design for Herman Miller. It's a beautiful set. Great veneers, great woods, very well made. And the Herman Miller East Indian Laurel is one of the most versatile things he ever designed. Most dealers in American Art Deco have 1 or 2 pieces of this in their home. Now, this is the Rhodey misattribution. We have 3 of these in our kitchen. And when Rick told me they're not Rhodey, I said, no way, they've always been Rhodey. Well, we have not been able to find any literature saying that this was designed by Gilbert Rhodey. They came out after Rhodey, during a period of time when Rhodey was not designing for Troy. So again, in research, we may find that he did design them, but for now, they're a misattribution. Kim Weber was the cover picture on the book is a Kim Weber design. There's a lot more in there. I brought this one out because I thought it was a cool story on this one. The chair was called the airline chair because it was designed by Pan Am. Pan Am rejected it. Disney Studios in California, where Kim Weber did work for a while, purchased 300 of them. They're now coming up at auction, and the prices are ridiculous, $10,000, $12,000. This piece we had in our gallery at 1622, maybe 25 years ago, 20. And we didn't know it was Wolfgang Hofmann. Wolfgang Hofmann was Joseph Hoffmann's son, Joseph Hoffmann being the Vienna Werkstatt designer. And there was a gentleman by the name of Joseph Urban who was from Vienna as well, working in New York, needed somebody to work with him. And so Joseph said his son could go. Well, Urban sent a first-class ticket on the steamship to Wolfgang. Wolfgang traded in him for 2 coach tickets, married Paula, and arrived in New York with a wife. And Urban was quite upset because that was another mouth to feed. Eventually, she became also very well known in design. And this is actually a patent drawing that he found. It said, "Oh man, remember that chair we had?" Again, really great, clean lines. Wolfgang Hofmann. This has been at Miami at Miami Beach at the Art Deco weekend. Frank Fletcher designed airplanes back in World War II. When the war ended, this particular desk was designed to make more room in his offices for all the soldiers coming back from the war. He didn't want to let anybody go without a job. And this is a smoker. This was designed for the Pullman trains. Warren MacArthur designed airplane seats, and then did the design for the Arizona Biltmore Hotel. These chairs, these belonged to Gael over there at one time, and that's her photograph. There was some more Wolfgang. There's some more Warren MacArthur in there that you can see that David Robertson Smith designed for Dynamic Creations. They were one of the first. They started doing building furniture in 1925, and you can still find good American deco if you look. This was purchased from a Coral Gables estate about a year ago. And I don't know if, no, okay, so I can't tell you who we purchased it from because he's not here. But anyway, so Russell Wright, mostly known for the American modern dishes. And I think there was a book up here yeah, there's one of them up there, the pink water jug up there. That was that was designed by Russell Wright as well. There's he did good solid maple furniture, very heavy. And this is just a couple of the anonymous designs. That's a bootlegger desk. That's a full bar. It all closes up. If I had 100 of these, I could have sold 100. And that piece is now in a home in Hollywood. We don't know who designed them, but they're beautiful stuff. And then there is Rick Emmett, was born in 1941 in Philadelphia. And he began his adventure in American Art Deco in 1979. I told him he needed to get a job. And he'd been a hotel manager, which I didn't think was a fitting job for a married man. we kid around like that. His humor was great because he didn't take me or anyone else seriously, and that's one of the reasons why our marriage lasted so long. So we bought the duck at a garage sale in Coral Gables, and he liked the duck, and he started buying things with lines like that. And then we go to the library or the bookstore and look for books that could teach us more about it. And it also led to a fascination with ducks, which later on there'll be a duck book coming out.
But that's a different story and a different event.
And he's the one that said usually there's a picture of the author in the space. Those who know Rick know what he looks like. Those who don't know him don't care. The duck is more interesting. Rick passed away April 7th. He saw his book be published. he died doing exactly what he wanted to do, which is what he wanted to do. And I miss him, and I'm very happy that you guys are here. Thank you very much.
If
If there are any questions,
if y'all have any questions for myself or Isa?
I'm just interested in how the cover piece was chosen. You have all these gorgeous pieces. The cover piece, which you haven't really discussed, why was that? Is that Rick's choice, or you're the
actually, I liked it.
Why don't you go back to the cover?
Yeah, sure.
We know the duck is here. Can you go
One
forward?
way back.
No, you gotta go. Yeah, there it
is.
is.
Oops. Okay. I don't think I did that right, but
Well, that's it.
This set recently went for.
Hang on. It'll come back. It'll come back. There it
Okay.
is.
Anyway, this set is at a client's home in California. And we went in and started taking photos of all of his things. And when I came back, I just started playing around with the book. And I said, Rick, doesn't this look good? He said, yeah, that's going to be the cover. I said, okay. But that's the only way it was. It wasn't anything. I didn't discuss much about Kim Weber because, frankly, I didn't want to use up all the time talking about, I wanted to let you guys ask questions and stuff. But it's all in the book, and there's this set sells, last set with the buffets and the vitrine and everything sold for like $180,000.
There's a question in the back.
So who was Rick's favorite designer?
Whoever he bought the last piece. I'm still got people writing me, hey, Rick bought this, how could we ship it? And I'm going, oh.
Honestly, that changed all the time.
Yeah.
Like 1 year it would be Paul Frankel, and he'd be buying all this Paul Frankel stuff, and then Desky, and then, I mean, at least for the last 20 years, that changed about once a year.
He always said he loved the Dynamic Creations line because it was so very much the beginning of American Art Deco, and it's not very well known, and it, so as we were working on the book, he'd say, I really like David Robertson Smith. Any other questions?
I do have. I'm curious as to how many individual specimens of most of these there are. I mean, are we talking about a half a dozen, or 20, or 100, or what that have survived?
Hard to know.
Hard to know.
It really is. Michael, maybe you know a little bit better how to answer that question.
No, anything that you don't know.
How about you,
Say that
Gail?
louder.
It's hard to know. It's like people, we used to sell a bronze called the Comet, and it was French Art Deco, and it's the lady that's like flying out, a beautiful, beautiful bronze. And pieces kept appearing, and you pretty much could tell which were real and which were reproduced because of the quality of the design. And it's hard to tell. Stuff was just not documented.
Was there ever a piece that Rick came across that he just refused to sell? That he just took
The duck.
Besides that.
Not really. No, he early on we made a rule that if we buy it for the gallery, it's to be sold.
Any other questions?
Well, thank you very much for being here.
Hi, I'm Mitchell Kaplan. I just want to say that how honored we are to have you guys here, and how honored we are to have Rick's memory among all of us. Rick was he was a pioneer in many ways. He was. We started the bookshop in 1982. The Modernism Gallery started when exactly?
about that time. We had Gemini, and then we did 91. We moved to 1622
Right.
Palms.
And I remember it would be very hectic in the bookshop. And in those days, you couldn't find very much information about any of this stuff. Dennis and Michael were the first really to do much of any books or anything about Art Deco, believe it or not. Art Deco was not something that was in the public consciousness. And so often I would just want to get out of the bookshop as fast as I could. And I would go to the Modernism Gallery and just sort of clear my head. And I would salivate at these things that I saw. And Rick was always so just welcoming, even though he knew I wasn't going to buy anything. I couldn't afford to buy anything. But he would take me back, and the delight that he had in showing me his books. The books that he had, that book collection that he had, was just so amazing. And so, it was an archive like nothing else, really. And, you know, to hear of his death was very shocking to all of us. And we send our love to both of you and are just so proud that he had a chance, or so pleased that he had a chance to see the book before he died. And we're just happy to have it here and have his spirit live on through the book. So thank you all for coming. We have the books, and I hope you'll hang around a little bit as well. Thank you.